We will now continue the dissection of the hemisphere with special attention to the basal ganglia. We will first review the different structures of frontal sections through the hemisphere.
Look here, for the purpose of orientation again, this is the insula. Here you can see, even very nicely, the extreme capsule and the claustrum, which is broader ventral part, then the external capsule. Here comes the lentiform nucleus, as you can see here, with the putamen, this darker area, and the globus pallidus, this lighter area here. And look how closely related here the amygdaloid body in this region is to the rest of the basal ganglia here. Well, further medially here, of course, is the internal capsule. Here is part of thalamus, the very rostral part of thalamus. Here is the caudate nucleus. And down here is the region of the hypothalamus, with the fornix cut through at this level. And here is the optic tract. Now, when you have the relations, what I like for you to notice is that there are close relations here between the amygdaloid body and this region underneath the globus pallidus. This region is referred to as substantia nominata. And if you flip the specimen around, you will see that this is the very region where if we take away here all the blood vessels coming in from the middle cerebral artery, these are the lenticulostriate arteries. This is the very region where these blood vessels come up. And we'll make even a little cut further rostrally here. See what we can see on this section. Here it is, in other words. Here is still part of the amygdaloid body. Now we're rather far forward here. Here is the optic chiasm. Here is the anterior commissure proceeding towards the temporal lobe. And this is the region where these lenticulostriate arteries come up through the brain, deep to the anterior perforated space, which is located there. And this is the region of the substantia nominata, which is closely related here to the amygdaloid body. And it is in the substantia nominata that the basal nucleus of Meynert is located. And the generation of the cholinergic neurons in this nucleus has been related to some forms of Alzheimer's disease, also called presenile dementia. We'll now complete this part of the dissection by cutting horizontal sections like this through the two hemispheres. And I'll go a little deep on this side here, like this, take away. And what you see here is the very beginning here of the putamen coming up. This is the caudate nucleus. This is a thalamus in its full extent. And here is the internal capsule coming. And outside the putamen is the external capsule. We don't see much here of the claustrum. You can just barely see a little bit of claustrum. And then the extreme capsule and the insula. And we'll cut the same section here on the other, in the other hemisphere, like this. Here. At this level, we are still rather high up, as you can see. And we still have not reached really the globus pallidus, or the pallidum that is medial here to the putamen. But if we go a little bit deeper down, and we'll do that on this side here, we will soon be able to find the globus pallidus. Well, here is the very beginning of the globus pallidus medially here. And I will even cut a little bit deeper on that side. We can see the full extent, or at least a large part of the globus pallidus, something like this. And then we will cut free the medial part here, like this. and remove it. Now, as you can see, on this side of the brain, here, it shows very nicely here the globus pallidus with its two parts here, the external part and an internal part. And in the back we have come all the way down to the lateral geniculate body that is showing very nicely here, and the beginning here of the optic radiation in the retrolenticular part of the internal capsule here. We have almost lost track now of the thalamus. We are so far down at this level. Also now you can see much more nicely the claustrum here because it's becoming much thicker the more ventral we go. Well, I would like now to indicate the approximate location of the corticospinal tract or the pyramidal tract. As you know, there are many important fiber pathways in the internal capsule. Here's in the anterior limb of the internal capsule are primarily fibers connecting the frontal lobe with the thalamus and further down the brainstem. And in the posterior part, in the posterior limb of the internal capsule, that's where the corticospinal tract is located, somewhere in this region. And it's very interesting to realize that depending a little bit upon the level of the internal capsule, the location of the pyramidal tract will vary in the internal capsule. If you come a little bit higher up, it is usually located more rostrally towards the genu of the corpus callosum. Because after all, if we indicate the projection of the corticospinal tract with this probe, it has to go down towards, as I flip this around, it will come out here at the base of the cerebral peduncle. So if we put our probe in here, that's where the corticospinal tract is coming, just about that level. So let's put the probe in here, connect here with connect it with that part, you can see, and then we have just about the direction of the corticospinal tract, because after all it comes from the motor cortex in the frontal lobe. So if you look upon it this way, you will realize that the lower down you come within the internal capsule, the further back the corticospinal tract will be in the posterior limb of the internal capsule, like this. Well, and next, the very last thing that we will do here is to see if we can dissect free the anterior commissure. Look here. Here is the anterior commissure crossing the midline. And if we go here into the basal ganglia, we should be able to follow the anterior commissure. Here I take away the globus pallidus, here part of the basal ganglia, and this is quite nicely. Can you see there how the anterior commissure, the limb, the temporal limb of the anterior commissure is moving laterally here in the very ventral part of the basal ganglia. Here it comes. Here is the anterior commissure. Let me cut away the fornix on that side so you can see it a little bit better. Here it is. I will take away this piece here. Now you can very nicely see it. Here is the anterior commissure penetrating deep here into the basal ganglia and proceeding towards the temporal lobe. Take a closer look here at